Hello, I'm Anne Marie Gattari, your host for Aging Well in America. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have a wonderful program. We have with us Don Witt. Hi Don, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. From the Grosse Pointe Woods Senior Citizens Commission. The commission has been hard at work at surveying our senior citizens in the community. And Don's going to speak to us about that. We put this in just in the interest of all information. I also am on the commission. Don is a member of the commission, and so together we have been working on this survey because we wanted really to know what our seniors in the community want the commission to be for them and what it will do for them. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
And Anne Marie brought up the big question of why are we here? What is the commission, the senior commission, supposed to do? And we looked at, she looked at some stuff from the past, and we decided that, well, one way is to find out what our customers want,
Exactly.
which are seniors within our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a group that we've tried to put together a survey,
Mm-hmm.
and by taking a look at what other people did at various types of surveys, there's a lot out there.
Yes, there are.
And we could have made a 10-page survey.
Yes.
But we had it whittled down to some of the things that are seem to be on the tip of everybody's tongue at this particular time, including things like classes, educational classes, trips,
Different
lunch and movie,
activities,
things like
right?
that. And got the council to be able to approve us, to be able to have some printed and sent out. And we didn't get every senior because we only had limited funds, so we
Sure.
thought we would do it via the absentee ballot.
Yeah. So let me
So-
ask you a few kind of structural questions.
Sure.
So the survey, which we affectionately call our leisure survey, because it's about what the activities that we want to know our seniors are interested in doing in the whole leisure activity realm of their lives. When did the survey go out? Do you remember? Wasn't it earlier this spring?
You know, I don't know exactly
Okay.
when it went out,
Yeah, I want to
but
say
I
it was
do
like
know
May.
when it was due, which was basically May 15th.
Okay, so then of course it had
It
to
was
go out
recent,
earlier. So
yeah.
it went out earlier this year. It came back to us middle of May, and since May through now the end of the summer, we have been looking at the results. We got a very good representation back, though, even though, as you
Yes.
said, not a lot.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about who responded. I know you've got that very good little cheat sheet on the ages of people who responded.
Well, I was kind of interested in or we were interested in, what age groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of amazing that it kind of fit in like in the 60s. Basically, 50% of the respondents, and there was, let's say, 400 that responded,
Which is a
were
great
in the
response.
60s.
So up to age 60 or?
Up to age 69.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So 60 to 69.
All right. About
And
50%.
in the 70s was another 25%.
Okay.
So we were hitting and getting results from people who are not in their 90s and 80s and so forth, but so the rest of them were
younger
then.
seniors.
But the ones that are saying, I'm in a senior class by age, but I want to do more than what I'm doing, and here are some of the tick marks that I'm putting down because I'm interested in these areas.
Great.
So that was very nice to see that it's the let me say the younger seniors, the lower end of the seniors,
Right.
responded, and they're looking for this type of information.
So If we could kind of put the commission in place, if you will. The commission right now is it's appointed commission from the Grosse Pointe Woods city government. Meets every other month, and of course it's open to the public. It meets on the third Tuesday of the month. It's in the calendar.
Yeah.
You and I are members. And currently, traditionally, the commission has held two very popular events every year. One in the spring, Ice Cream Social, which takes place in May, and then one in the fall in September, which is the picnic, which takes place in September, and it's held at the Grosse Pointe Woods Park. So those two events have brought in a lot of interest, and it for the most part has been the traditional. So as the commission, we were looking at what else can we do, what else should we be doing. So can you tell us a little bit about what the survey results were in terms of what people said they wanted?
Well, I was kind of surprised when I kind of took a look at what was noted, and it seemed to be all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
Go ahead, you can use
page
your notes.
was
That's the survey.
the survey, both sides, enough for people to write in information, but there wasn't necessarily hundreds of classifications,
Right.
but it was all over the board. And many of
Just, if I could, I'm going to interrupt here for a quick minute here, Don. And so there are topics of activities. So we asked about health, financial, and legal activities, and there are 3 or 4 things, including knowing more about Social Security or retirement planning, Medicare. Then there's fitness programs. We all know what those are. Dance programs. Community activities like historical events or dining out or museums. Arts and crafts, table games, music, outdoor leisure and social, hiking, walking, barbecue, picnics, and social clubs. And, well, there's 2 more, literacy, continuing ed, and volunteer. So we broke it down into those categories and had a handful of specific events underneath each
Yes.
category. So as you said, it's kind of all over the map. Everybody wanted a little bit of something, of
a little
everything.
bit of something
Yeah.
and a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So it was hard to say we need to only focus in this particular area. And another quasi-surprising thing was that most of these areas are already covered in our community. We have the Grosse Pointe War Memorial, which
is
has
where
a
we
lot
are
of
right now.
different classes and things to do, and trips and painting and photography and gardening
Exactly.
and we have SOC, Services for Older Citizens. And, well, for example, I volunteer there for individual help on computing on Fridays. There's about 5 of us that do this, and to me it's been very successful and enjoyable. We have the neighborhood club, which they have like swimming, and they have all of their activities, including a lot for the younger kids and so
Right.
forth, and grandkids. You have St. John's Hospital, Beaumont, Grosse Pointe, and you have Henry Ford. And these organizations have their various health type activities. You have churches that have various activities, and you have community centers, the individual cities, such as Grosse Pointe Park, that has a couple of theaters where they put on things, and it's amazing what, if you take a look at all of the things that are available for us seniors
Here in our own 5 Grosse Pointes.
and only the 5 Grosse Pointes and Harper
And
Woods.
Harper Woods.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And Harper Woods has a wonderful senior community center as well.
yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And so it kind of really pointed out that maybe what our function should be is, even though we were always aware of it, that we don't want to duplicate things that have already been done, and maybe with seeing what everybody wants, maybe what it is that we need to be a conduit that goes between what's being offered and our seniors, so that they know what's available and they can kind of pick and choose, and it's in front of them in various forms of getting the information out.
Sure. So almost the commission then almost can become a clearinghouse, if you will, of all this information.
Good,
right?
good term. Yes.
And then, so now it's just a matter of us figuring out, as you said, how to get that information. Is it a website? Is it through a newsletter? Is it linking with all of these entities already have so much?
Nowadays, right? It's not like in my parents' days of getting information out on a piece of paper.
Right.
Because
Right.
I found that out being on the PTO at the schools, where how do we just get information out to the parents of the students within the grade school?
Right.
And that was a difficult job, because there was all different types of methods that people are attuned to.
That's right.
But there's nothing wrong with trying to use as many of them as possible, all the way from what they call e-blast to email to Facebook to Twitter to our own Grosse Pointe Woods bulletin that is sent out,
Sure.
to the Grosse Pointe News.
We could even use this show as a matter
absolutely.
of fact. This is one
yeah,
of the
yeah.
one of the
Anything,
ways.
and so it's a big job
Yeah,
just to be
yeah.
able to do that.
Yeah. So I think our viewers today could hear that this is a work in progress. We
Oh,
don't have the
absolutely.
answers, and we're actually looking for people to
Help
speak
us
up and
with
help
that.
us and
Yep.
come to our meetings and tell us, give us some ideas on how we can best get all, number one, gather up all the information, because all those entities that you listed do just so much. The volumes of classes that are available for our senior citizens at every one of those places is enormous.
It is.
And if we could just gather it all up and somehow help our community digest it, so that it's just not more information being blasted at them and it kind of falls on deaf ears.
Right. Sometimes it would be easier to say, stop.
Exactly.
Let's start over again.
Yeah.
And only go out with 1 or 2, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
Right,
So,
So I think it's our job now to take the information, organize it, and then somehow disseminate it to our seniors
Yes.
in our community.
and if we find that, which we haven't really had enough discussion with it, but it takes time to digest it, talk with some people and so forth, and get an idea of how we want to go about it. But if we find that we need to hold a particular class because either it's not being held, or it's like the lunch and movie that the Woods Community Center holds. Very well attended, very well liked, even though there are other movies at other places, and that we can have multiples
Of
them.
course.
But we definitely don't want to do something where it's stepping on the other organizations' toes,
Right.
per se, and duplicating stuff and using our energy for things that are already being handled.
Exactly.
But it's going to be a big enough job for us to be able to figure out what to do, disseminating the information, getting it going, because we're dealing with various organizations that they have their input, their procedures and so forth, and then continuing it, because it's not going to be, let's do it this year and the heck, you know, next year will take care of itself.
Right,
It's
right.
going to be something like you had mentioned, a work in progress,
Right.
and it'll have to continue, because
Yeah.
this, you know, the question came up, what is a senior? You know,
Right.
you know,
First of all, who is a senior? What is a
senior,
senior?
and I'm a senior.
I'm a senior.
Yeah. And the back in my parents' days, a senior was somebody who was retired from Ford Motor Company at the age of 65, and maybe had a heart attack and passed away by the time they were 70. But that's not
Or
the
moved
case
to Florida
anymore.
and lived another 20 or 30 years,
Correct.
but didn't stay here in
Yeah.
our community.
And
But we
as
have-
you have seen, that there has been a push for more senior residence that's affordable and has things that us seniors like to do.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things this survey really pointed out is that when we talk about our aging loved ones and our senior citizens, it's not one group. There are different groups. It's a very diverse group, not only in terms of age, but in terms of education and race and gender, of course. And not everybody wants the same things.
Correct.
So while the picnic that we just held last weekend at the Lakefront Park is always popular, the numbers aren't what they used to be, right? The ice cream social in May, that's always a nice big hit. But again, those two events really, I think, we focus on an audience that's a little later in life. And so to encompass, to invite in that younger group who responded to the survey
Yes.
loud and clearly,
yes, they did.
maybe we need to, like you said, we don't need to hold those events because they're already out there. But I'm almost thinking if we could put like a catalog, almost like a college curriculum catalog. You know, I want this class at this time, and I register for it. And that might be one of the ways that we as the commission could use this information. So all kinds of ideas, and we do look for help from the community, people with some time and energy and some knowledge in this area to come on, step forward. It's a big volunteer effort, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don, you've been on the commission. I'm going to ask you to take us back a little bit about your personal history on the commission and what it's meant to you. How long have you been on the Senior Citizen Commission?
Maybe 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of, I was actually on a commission when I was on the PTO at Mason, and conflict of meeting time and so forth.
Yeah, you can only do
And,
so much,
yeah.
right?
And at that time, Mary Rose headed it up, and I knew her from SOC. And it took me a little while to realize that we only did a couple of things.
Yeah.
And so for the beginning years, I was thinking that, why have the commission? I mean, for those couple of things, we could have just turned them over to the community center there, and they could have held them just like that.
So what was the answer that you received?
Well, it was when you brought it up. Let's see, why are we here?
What are our bylaws? What's
Yeah.
our mission?
And realizing that, geez, you know, we're here to help the seniors. But do we know what they want to, what help do they need? How can we help them? So, well, we can ask them. As simple as that. The living in Grosse Pointe Woods, some of the other Grosse Pointe Woods residents that I happen to know that they always had negative things to say about what we do from the standpoint of, well, the schools did this 10, 15 years ago or whatever. Well, the schools don't do that anymore. You know, get over it. And you can't get, you just can't do everything that we used to do the same way.
That's right. That's right.
They still want, the individuals that I've talked to still want things to do, and they still have their desires, which they're available. They're just not available like they used to be.
Right.
Things change. They
Right.
never stay the same.
That's right. Or
So-
we, as the recipients of those events and organizations, we change too. And
Oh,
we
absolutely.
can't do everything we used to do. Our time is utilized differently. Let's face it, our energy level changes.
I always say my time is taken up with doctor appointments.
Well, there is that, isn't there?
But thank goodness for the doctors in the medical field and
Yes.
so forth. I'm able to do what I am able to do at my age and with my health. So.
Well, you've been a big contributor to this community. You've mentioned the PTO, so take us back a bit. You've always been involved in the community, even when your children were younger, it sounds like.
No.
No? No? You worked? Worked?
It's like a lot of people when
Yeah.
you're younger. Matter of fact, my granddaughter lives with me.
Okay.
So I was able to go through Mason with her, and it was like, wow, this was really neat. But when my two daughters went through, I worked a lot of hours.
Oh, okay.
So
Now you're seeing it.
now,
Yeah.
you know, and so therefore the only time I was ever at Mason was for
The conferences.
yeah,
or-
conference. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
basically
The
it.
teacher conferences.
My wife did everything else with our two daughters. So it's yeah, it. And I always thought I was going to miss work a lot, but I don't. There's a lot of other things, and I changed and volunteering. I just love to do that. I with SOC, I like it. I used to do Meals on Wheels, and with St. John's, I volunteer over there. And
That's so wonderful.
yeah,
When did you retire from your work career?
2006, 9 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been a big community volunteer in those 9 years?
Oh,
You
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
SOC. Did you immediately go to SOC? What drew you to the senior scene, if you will?
Well, you know what? I wanted to give back because I had some health issues, and you know, the hospitals took care of me, and I had always talked to a few of my older relatives. Matter of fact, my couple relatives, they're in their late 80s, are still doing Meals on Wheels, helping
my
out.
goodness. God bless them.
And so I thought, wow, hey, I want to do that. So I signed up for that, and after having, there was something connected with various other organizations, and there was CareLink from St. John's Hospital, and at that time Leanne was handling it, and so
Yeah.
I was talking with her, and so she said, come by, and I just loved it, and just being able to help out is I think it's part of our we need to do it.
I was
And
hearing that word need. We personally need.
Yes,
To be able to
we
give
need.
and
I
help,
need to
right?
do it to feel like I'm a whole person, doing what I'm here for, doing what
So
I'm
So beautifully
supposed
put.
to
Yes.
do at this age that
Yes.
you know, when I was working, I was supposed to put a lot of hours in and so forth and effort, and can't do everything.
Right.
But yeah, volunteering, and there are a lot of people that volunteer. So if
Yes, there
anybody
are.
ever says, I'm bored, that's their own fault. And from the survey, there were, and one of the questions, remember, on the back, adult interested in getting involved, please provide. And so there was quite a few answers of people that want to volunteer doing something, and they have not like taken that next step to do it.
Yes. So here we just
nobody's
simply
going to
ask
grab
them.
you by the hand and
Right.
take you, force you. You got to say, I got to get up because I got to go and check this out and find out if it's for me. That's the nice thing about volunteering is even though every year I ask for double the pay that I had been getting.
And double of zero
double
is?
the zero is still zero. But I feel that volunteering, I don't have to stay there. If I'm tired of doing one thing, I can do something else. I can find another job.
Right. If it's not working for you, right?
Correct.
For whatever
yeah, and,
reason.
and actually things change.
Right.
I like doing the Meals on Wheels, but I'm glad that I moved out of it and got into helping out with the computer aspect with the individuals. So
Yeah.
that things change, and so do I.
Yeah, that's great. So beautifully put. So, if we could just give people kind of some useful information and some phone numbers, if they are interested in working on the the leisure activity survey with the commission, they can call the Grosse Pointe Woods City Hall and leave their name and number, and we'll get back with them. And if they're interested in any of the volunteer activities that you mentioned, they can go to the websites of any of them, right? SOC, Services for Older Citizens. The hospitals have volunteer opportunities. Where else would you recommend people who are looking to volunteer where they might go?
My mind is blank.
Okay.
I'm sure, definitely through any type of church organization.
Oh, of course, through your churches and the community
definitely
centers.
through the school system. I have been considering, rather than going back to the PTO aspect, I've been considering doing something with the elementary, and like I know of some individuals that just read to the students.
Yeah.
So it's
wonderful.
There are things that can be done
Yes.
via that.
Good. Believe it or not, we have come to the end of our show. we have discussed this now for. I think we've really given some great ideas, and Don, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And as always, please send your ideas for another episode of Aging Well in America to the Grosse Pointe War Memorial, and we will see you next time.